So I would like to introduce him, and I would read his profile now. I will read his profile now. Um, Mr. Banji Fehintola is the director and head of Treasury and Financial Institutions of at Africa Finance Corporation. He previously worked with Citibank Nigeria Limited and Arthur Anderson LLP, now KPMG Professional Services Limited. He holds a bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Ibadan and a master's degree of philosophy in international finance from the University of Glasgow. He is also a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria and currently the president of CFA Society Nigeria. So today we welcome Sir Banji Fehintola as he proceed with today's session. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Tomishe. And a good evening to everyone that is on the line this evening. Just for my benefit, how long is this session? I just want to know, and how are we running it? Are we speaking for some time, then we take Q&A, or how is it going to work?
Okay, so we will be speaking. You'll be speaking for some time. Then we'll take questions and answer.
And how long is the time?
Okay, we are looking at time frame of 45 minutes.
Okay, no, don't worry. I don't have anything to say for 45 minutes. Trust me.
All right, sir.
So don't worry. I think I don't know how long I'll take. Certainly not 45 minutes. But my expectation is that we would have a decent amount of time for interaction and for Q&A, because I would really like to hear from you as much as you hear from me. So so I think it's a two-way thing eventually. So it's really a pleasure being here. I think I also have someone from the CFA Society office who has just joined, Gloria. Gloria is one of our senior people in the society office. So the CFA Society is actually represented here, and it's a pleasure to be speaking to you guys today. So like I said, I won't take all your time. Can you confirm that you can still see me, Tumisha?
Yes, I can still see you. I can.
Okay, great. So it's really a great honor to be speaking to all of you today. Many times when I look back at my career and my life, I wish a lot of things could be different. I wish I could have had so many of the opportunities that you guys have today, to connect with the industry. And unfortunately, I probably never had those opportunities. And I think if I had to go back in time to correct anything in my life, that's the part I would have wished to be different, because I think it would have made a lot of difference in my career. So I think you guys should count yourselves lucky to have people in the industry speaking to you. You should count yourselves lucky to be able to organize yourselves and put together, a conference or a seminar or whatever it is, whereby you can share ideas and also interact with people in the industry. So my intention today, within the time allocated to me, is to talk broadly about a topic that I've been given, which is to build a future-proof career in finance. And I sincerely hope that at the end of this session, at the end of our conversation, you guys would have picked up a few learning points that hopefully would be useful to you, during the course of your future careers in finance. My suspicion is that most of you that are on this webinar or this event today are considering a career in finance. So A lot of things I will talk about will be things around, why finance, what's the role of finance in the macroeconomy, what are the skills that you need to even to land that first job in the finance industry. And even when you get into the finance industry, how do you rise up, through the career ladder? So those are the things I would like to talk about. A part of it, I'll talk about myself, I'll talk about my experience, and hopefully you can learn a few things from me as I speak to you guys today. But first of all, I would like to thank Tumishe. Tumishe has been a relentless person, and I really want to appreciate your vigor and the rigor with which you chased me, and the follow up, ensuring that I found time to do this speaking engagement today. To be honest, it's not easy for me. As he said during the introduction, I have multiple parts of my life. I have a job where I have to manage several businesses. Yeah, and now we're working from home. People have said we're no longer working from home. We are living at work rather than working from home now. So I was up till 1 a.m. yesterday, still doing work. I teach CFA students. So Tumishe called me earlier on. I was teaching a level 3 CFA class. I've been doing that since morning. I had to end it so that I could be with you guys now and speak to you guys. Of course, I also have my role with the CFA Society where I'm president. So it's really challenging to find time. And in between that, obviously, there's family. And so really, I think Tumishe did a great job trying to get me to be here today. So I really want to thank him for that. And I also want to thank all the leaders and volunteers of the investment consortium of University of Benin. Um, I think I want to thank you guys for the laudable idea of putting together this conference. Despite all the challenges that the world is facing right now with COVID. With COVID, a lot of people are idle. A lot of people are wondering how do they get engaged. So putting this together, bringing people together is a fantastic initiative. And I think this is something that I really want to commend everyone that acted or worked behind the scene to ensure that everybody is gathered here today to at least connect in a very positive way. As some of you may know, I don't know if you all know, but the idea of Nigerian universities setting up investment societies, investment clubs, investment consortium, as you call it, is something that the CFA Society Nigeria is actively promoting right now, right, as part of our strategic plan. In fact, one of the pillars of our strategic plan is to develop future professionals. And so for us, in addition to what we do with our university outreach programs and competitions that we run, so we run an annual ethics challenge, we run a CFA Institute research challenge, which is a global challenge. So for some of you that those are some of the things that we do. In addition to that, we have taken a decision as a society to actively support investment societies across Nigerian universities, and that's important. Our intention is to ensure that students are able to gather together to discuss investments, where you have a common interest. We want those societies to be professionally run. Part of our intention, obviously, is to help you to set up those societies and even provide funding to ensure that those societies have capital, they have the necessary amount of money they need on an annual basis to run their programs. Outside of money, obviously, we want to provide mentorship. We want to be in a position to help you guys to secure internship opportunities, job opportunities as you go out into the labor market. So for me, this is something that is extremely important for us to provide this platform and support any platform where students gather in order to discuss about the investment industry and how to position themselves for a career in finance or a career in the investment industry. Everything starts from the skills and the foundation that you guys are building in your investment consulting. And so for me, I think I will really like to encourage you guys to take this investment consortium, investment society, whatever name it's called. You should take it very seriously. If you're a passive member, try to be an active member, because one day you will look back and you'll be grateful that you had an opportunity like this. This, like I said earlier on, is an opportunity that I never had when I was in university. So compared to me, I obviously think that you guys have a head start. So my expectation, again, if we go 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, is that because of the opportunities that you guys had, you guys would have achieved a lot more than people like myself and my generation have achieved in the investment industry, simply because you've had the opportunities that we never had. So please, guys, grab these opportunities with all your hands and make sure that it counts for something. So to the theme of the conference itself, I understand the theme of your conference or gathering is facing the future, and you talked about financial intelligence and career development, etc. And I think really that theme is coming at a great time. It couldn't have come at a better time. And the reason why I say this is because the world of finance today is changing rapidly. It's being disrupted every day by so many factors within the industry and outside of the industry. And even more recently, COVID is a disrupting factor for the industry. I mean, a lot of people now know that the world has changed and perhaps has changed forever, right? The world of work as we know it has changed. I've been working from home since March. I haven't been to the office. And when you have a situation like this, can we put that person on mute, please? And when we have a situation like this, all of a sudden, the way people look at the world of work is totally different. So as I speak to you guys today about the topic, again, remember the topic is how to build a future-proof career in finance. You need to bear in mind that so many things are disrupting the industry today. And you need to find a way to adapt and make yourself relevant. Otherwise, I'm sorry, you'll be left behind in that industry. What I want to do right now is to tell you a bit about myself. Now, this is not something I'm comfortable with. I usually don't like talking about myself, but I've discovered that people learn from stories and they learn from people's life experiences. So I'll tell you a few things about myself and how I found myself in the field of finance. Some people say I found myself in a profession by accident. I never found myself in finance by accident, because right from when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a banker. That was my goal. I wanted to be a banker. I wanted to have a role in finance as a kid. Some of you will wonder, how will a kid want to be a banker? But for me, the fact was my father was a banker. He retired as a banker. My mom was a teacher. So maybe that's really where I get the two attributes of my life, banking, as well as the fact that I teach as well on the CFA program and other programs as well. So growing up as a kid, my father was my role model. I looked up to him. I loved the fact that this guy goes to work, he's dressed in a suit, the suits were nice, the tie was nice, beautiful shoe, all that stuff. And as a kid, I always looked at him like, man, I really want to be like this guy when I grow up. So you can argue that my motivation for wanting to be a finance person was because I had that picture of a fancy banker that dresses so nicely. And I really wanted to be like that guy that would dress so nicely all the rest of my life. I mean, the truth was, I didn't know what banking was all about at that time. I mean, I was so young. Obviously, I had no idea what banking was all about. Again, if I go back to history, I remember a lot of times my father never really spent dirty notes. As a banker, he had access to, fresh notes. So when you think about fresh notes, and if you ask him for money, he just takes out a bundle, and without counting it, he just picks, and the amount he gives you is always correct. And I'm like, is this guy a magician? Fresh notes, he knows how many just by feeling it and picking it and all that. And obviously, again, he was a senior person relatively, he had a nice official car. So, I mean, when you have that kind of life, really, as a kid, who wouldn't want to be like that, really? So that's really where my interest in finance started. You may say that's selfish, but that's really where it started. Now, when I went into secondary school, in my sets, my class at that point, I was probably one of the most talented people in class academically, and I was doing excellently well. And my teachers at that time wanted to force me to go to science, to do sciences. And I said no. Even though I did extremely well in physics, chemistry, biology, all the sciences, I said no. I wasn't going to go to science. I wanted to go to the art class. And I remember, meeting counselors and they said, "You are too good to be in art." I said, "No. The fact is, the sciences are a waste to me, knowing fully well that all I want to become is a finance professional." So I wanted to move to the art classes. It was a battle. I guess the compromise I had with my teachers at the time was, okay, I'm going to take physics, chemistry, biology all the way to my SS3, but for WAEC, I was going to drop them. I wasn't going to do them, except one of them. I think I had to do one, biology also. And that was how I focused more on the arts. And I decided at the time that I wanted to study economics as my first degree. Tumishi mentioned that I graduated, I studied economics in first degree. That's how I moved to economics. So I did economics at the University of Ibadan, and I graduated, quite well, top of my class in the year. That's around 98, 99. After I left school, again, bearing in mind, I knew what I wanted to be in future. My time, things were slightly better than now. A lot of companies would come to banks that came to was a bank called Merchant Banking Corporation, MBC. They're now gone. They're probably under First Bank now. And I did the interviews, did the test and all that, and I got hired from school. So I joined them for my NYSC immediately I left school, and I was in financial control department. That was my first exposure to the world of accounting and finance. The fact that I was working in the financial control team of a bank. That's when I first understood what banking meant and what the world of accounting and finance meant. Of course, if you follow my career, I later left MDC. I joined Arthur Andersen, as Tumishi mentioned earlier on. At that time, Andersen was one of the big four global accounting firms. I was in the tax and business advisory unit. I was very unhappy because my career, I never wanted to be a tax person. I loved the business consulting part, but not the tax part. I knew I wanted to be a finance professional. So I went on a study leave and went for my master's in international finance. So while I was doing my master's around 2002, that was when the Enron accounting scandal happened. For people who are students of history, you will remember that when Enron accounting scandal happened, that was what led Arthur Andersen to collapse as a firm. So Arthur Andersen collapsed in 2002. Finished my master's in 2002 and started interviewing for finance jobs. And I got a couple of jobs in banking. One was with Standard Chartered Bank. The other one was with Citibank. And Standard Chartered, I was going to be in risk. I didn't want to be in risk. And then Citibank offered me an opportunity to join them in the global markets team. And so after my master's, I decided to join Citibank in the global markets team, which is the treasury team. Now, that is where I would say I started having exposure to the global markets, to financial markets. Because while I was in Citi, I did currency trading, I did local currency trading, I did derivatives, I did all sorts of things. I managed clients and all that. So that's really where my exposure to global markets started. It was while I was in Citi that I completed my chartered accounting qualification. Again, you mentioned I'm a fellow of ICANN, so I finished my ICANN in 2004. And interestingly, while I was in City, that was the time I got to hear for the first time about the CFA designation. So the story is the guy who sat beside me, also a very senior person in Citibank today, always had all these books and he was studying every day. And I asked him one day, I was like, what's all these books? What exactly are you studying? And he said, oh, it's an exam called CFA. And I'm like, let me have a look. I picked one of the books, opened it. Okay, this thing is not bad. And then I said to him that when I finished my ICANN at the time, I was going to do CFA. And that's how I got into CFA. And interestingly, I completed my CFA in 2007 and became a charter holder in 2007. So that's 2007. I left City in December 2007, having worked there for about 5 years. And then I joined a firm or company called Africa Finance Corporation in January 2008. I joined as a vice president at the time, and I was the pioneer treasurer of AFC. So AFC was just created at the time by Charles Soludo, who was the governor of the CBN, as a multilateral financial institution. When I was at Citi, they were my clients. I helped them to manage their liquidity, and then they hired me, and I joined them. I was 30 years old at the time, when I became the treasurer of AFC. And imagine having the responsibility at the time to manage over $1 billion of cash, for AFC. So it was an enormous responsibility for a young shoulder at the time. So I've been with AFC since that time, from vice president all the way to senior director now as part of the management team. My responsibility now covers treasury, financial institutions, trade finance, investor relations, syndications. All these businesses report to me, and I look after those businesses for AFC. So why did I take you through all this? My reason for telling you all this is really because I want you guys to be able to put a lot of things in proper perspective as you think about the things that I'm telling you today, right? I'm sharing with you some things that have worked for me, and hopefully you will replicate some of these things. I will also tell you some things that didn't work for me, and hopefully you guys can avoid some of the pitfalls mistakes that I made in my own life, right? So that's really the background. But if you want a career in finance, you need to know what you are getting into, right? Finance plays a huge role in the growth and development of any economy in the world. So within the financial system, you have people who are called financial intermediaries. The role of financial intermediaries at the end of the day is to connect people who are saving money with people who need money. So you are connecting savings with investments. So financial intermediaries would identify and fund entrepreneurs, for example, that have very innovative ideas. And by doing this, they are promoting economic development, right? Financial intermediaries also do something that we call maturity transformation. You guys might have, if you look at a bank's balance sheet, a lot of the deposits, yet banks are lending for 10 years, 20 years. That is what is called maturity transformation. Financial institutions can do that because they have to do that kind of stuff. Financial institutions provide risk management solutions as well to enable all of us who are active in the financial market to be able to manage all the market risk that we face, volatilities in the market. Financial institutions can give us products to help us manage all this. So they are very important and systemic to the global market and global economy. If you look at a bank's balance sheet, for example, there are so many risks there. So as a result of all this, it means that financial institutions are usually very highly regulated. So if you are thinking of a career in finance, guys, you are planning to go into an industry that is highly regulated and will continue to be highly regulated for many, many more years to come. You need to remember that. You're going into an industry that's highly regulated. Why are banks and financial institutions regulated? Very simple answer. If you go back to history, financial history, banks and financial institutions have played a very big role in many of the global crises and financial crises that the world has faced. Go back to the Great Depression in the 1920s. That started with the crash of Wall Street. If you go back to the Asian crisis or the dot-com bubble in the 2000s, banks had a big role to play in there. If you think about the 2008, 2009 global financial crisis, that was triggered by the collapse of Lehman Brothers. For those of you who know the story, banks had a lot of exposures to subprime mortgages. Banks had exposures to things that you call CDOs, collateralized debt obligations. Those are derivatives. It was crazy. In Nigeria itself, a lot of banks have collapsed in the past. And that's the reason why in 2004, for those of you that know the history, under Charles Soludo, the central bank mandated that every bank had to recapitalize from 2 billion to 25 billion in order for them to be able to absorb risk. Of course, the result of that was that the number of banks in Nigeria shrank from 89 to 25 at the time. So if you look at the banking sector today, there are lots of rules and regulations around capital, around liquidity, and the whole objective is to ensure that the financial system is sound, resilient to shocks, even when there is stress, even when there is COVID, the financial system should be able to survive. So other things you see, Basel, IFRS 9, all those things exist in order to make the financial system better. So the reason why I'm saying this, guys, is if you want a career in finance, just know that this is a challenging environment and it is a highly demanding environment. So my intention really, guys, is not to discourage you. So I know it sounds negative, but my intention is not to discourage you from pursuing a career in finance. I just want you guys to appreciate what is there before you get in. And let me also now go to the positive. You know, despite all the challenges I said, the career in finance is highly rewarding. Let's be honest, highly rewarding. The first reward is financial. All of us want to live a good life. We want a fantastic salary. Finance will give you that. You're going to make money. If you are in the world of finance, you will likely make a lot of money to last you a lifetime. In fact, if you're in some roles in finance, you know, investment banking, treasury, you are in, you know, those places where you make lots of money crazily, chances are your bonuses every year may even be in multiples of your normal salary. I mean, people earn millions of dollars every year as bonuses because they work in the financial industry, which is why obviously people are always angry about about bankers and the financial industry. So you will live a comfortable life, no doubt. You will be building a career in an environment that is highly dynamic. You know, you'll be building a career whereby you probably travel a lot. You are competing on a global scale, and you may even be working for institutions that support your professional development, because a lot of banks will support your CFA, will support your MBA, will support you developing yourself so that you can apply those skills in order to help them to meet their own objectives. So global travel, money, development, you have a big network, you have a network of business executives that you get to know. You go on road shows, you sleep in fancy hotels, get airline miles. So it's fantastic. So it's not bad. So guys, I'm just trying to be balanced. It's challenging, but it's highly rewarding as well. Before I talk about skills that you need, I want to talk about a major factor that is disrupting the world of finance today, and that's technology. And we all know that technology is playing an ever-increasing role in the world of finance. That is the whole buzzword, fintech. You know, fintech is everywhere. Everybody's fintech, fintech, fintech. Everybody wants to be a technology guru. If we break it down from A to Z, What fintech is all about is that we want to be able to deliver financial products to end users in a smarter way and in a more efficient way. So with automation today, what you see is that traditional banking products or financial products, non-traditional products, and services are easily available to end users and at cheaper costs. Efficiency has been improved, user experience has been improved, cost of delivery has gone down, and as a result, most fintech-enabled companies are actually growing their revenues and bottom line, which is fantastic. I always kind of compare this with when I was in school. So when I was in university, again, I entered UI in 94, left 98, 99. My bank account at that time, for me to withdraw money from my account, I had to go to the banking hall to do that. You enter the banking hall, it's so full. To make a simple cash withdrawal, I'll spend an hour or 2 hours. I'll miss classes to do that. We had no ATMs, no mobile phones, internet banking, impossible. No one thought about it. But look at where we are today. Look at the amount of digital revolution that has happened since 2000 till now. I tell people today that, look, no matter what you sell, if you cannot get that product to the hands of people on a mobile phone, in a mobile app, you have not started, because you will struggle with market access. Today, I go a whole year, I don't go into a banking hall, and I'm doing banking services every day on my mobile phone or on a tablet. So that's how the landscape has changed. Now, if you think the world has changed, just pause for a minute and think about the innovation that is still being incubated, that is still being developed and has not yet come. Think about the world in another 10 years or 20 years. I can put a bet that in another 10, 20 years, all these things that we are calling huge technology today will be obsolete. That is the amount of transformation that is coming to the finance industry. So some people will tell you fintech is the future. No, I say I disagree. Fintech is now. Fintech will also remain the future. It has started. So some data, PwC 2019 did a survey, and they discovered that 37% of financial institutions globally already have fintech products available to their customers. That's almost half. 22% are developing, while 40% said they are still conducting research. Total amount spent on fintech as at last year, $74 billion. That's what has been spent in developing technology to support the world of finance. China, India, obviously leading the way when you think about where this is happening. So in the world of finance today, technology has disrupted everything. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, all these things are an integral part of finance today. You hear about robo-advisors, you hear about all sorts of payment platforms where machines are essentially replacing human beings. All those things are happening today. So I think the winners and the losers, if you think about it in the future, will be those that invest more in technology and those that don't do. A few years ago, I think 2 years ago, I visited Korea. I was in South Korea, and I went to the port. There's a port in a city called Busan. An entire port is operated by robots and computers. You don't need human intervention. So that is the world that we're living in today, where human beings are being replaced by computers. And that has implications. Obviously, there could be social implications when you think about that. But the implication is that if we are not careful, a lot of the skills that we have today will soon become obsolete. So I'm not in any way suggesting that we should become technological geeks. But what I'm saying to you is that you need to be aware that so many of the skills you are learning in school now, in a few years' time, will not be relevant anymore. So you need to keep evolving. You need to keep adapting as you move along. If you do not adapt, you will not remain relevant. You need to develop multiple skills so that if technology displaces you, in one area, you can move your skill to another area. I can tell you for free, computers will not replace human beings in everything. There are so many soft skills that computers cannot have. I can give you some examples. A computer cannot take a client for lunch. A computer cannot play golf with a client. These are soft skills, networking skills that human beings only possess, the human side of relationship. And to the extent that you have these skills as well, these are skills that will always be relevant despite the technological revolution that we're witnessing. So bear in mind technology is important, but please think about how to make yourself relevant despite the fact that technology is disrupting the world of finance. So what I want to do now, guys, is I'll just talk about a few things. I'll talk about how to land your first finance job, just 5 things, and then I'll talk about how to stay relevant in the world of finance, and then we'll end it there and open it up to Q&A. So first of all, if you are thinking of a career in finance, you should be someone that is interested in numbers. At the end of the day, whether you like it or not, finance is about numbers. So I get approached by people all the time who say to me, oh, I'm a lawyer. I studied English, history, linguistics. Can I make it in finance? My answer to you is yes, you can. I don't care what you studied. So let's demystify something. Finance is not rocket science. It is not rocket science. Irrespective of your academic background, you can enter the world of finance and you find a niche for yourself and you will thrive. The difference, though, between those that will coast and those that will excel is a flair for numbers. So if you're thinking of a career in finance, guys, start falling in love with numbers. How do you do that? Very simple. You can start taking basic courses on quantitative methods, accounting, finance, little things that get you in love with numbers, okay? Secondly, you need to have a good understanding of how financial markets work for you to make a good impression in your first finance interview. The worst thing you can do is to enter an interview and you are talking like someone that has no clue. You should be speaking the language of financial markets. You have a very high probability of being hired when you are speaking the language of the profession, okay? And here, I mean, you should understand how capital markets work, stock markets, debt capital markets, commodities markets, currency markets. You should be able to talk about what's driving the macro economy. You should be analytical. You should be able to explain how government policies affect GDP growth, how government policies make economies grow or contract. You should be comfortable discussing exchange rates, oil markets, gold price, etc. All those kind of things. This is how you make a good impression in that first interview. Now, how do you pick up these skills? Again, you need to read more. You need to spend more time watching financial news. You have access to CNBC, Bloomberg, Financial Times. All those things are available for you. Rather than trying to spend so much time on social media, a lot of us spend so much time on Instagram, checking what's happening to Bobrisky, happening to this and all that. And at the end of the day, we've consumed a lot of negative content when we could have spent time actually developing skills that will help us in the future. Thirdly, in the early stages of your career, technical skills is what matters. And by technical skills, I mean skills such as modeling, valuation, stuff like that. Because the guy who is hiring you for a technical skill at that early stage. As you move higher in your career ladder, technical skills don't matter anymore. They begin to matter less. So what I think, though, is that unfortunately, our universities have not prepared us adequately for technical skills. I'm just being blunt to you guys. It happened to me, and I won't be surprised it's happening to you. And that's the reason why, for me as a human being, as president of CFA Society, I've spent a lot of my time talking to Nigerian universities to get them to join the CFA Institute affiliation program. Because with that, they can take a lot of the CFA curriculum into their curriculum, and that would prepare you better for the world of work. Now, that we haven't been very successful, I must admit. But again, in our own way, for some of you that have participated or will participate in our research challenge, for example, you'll be able to pick up equity valuation skills there. So the technical skills you need to learn. Your universities are not helping you now, so you need to take matters into your own hand. You need to take your own destiny into your hand. This is where your hunger for learning and self-development would matter, okay? There are so many online courses on valuation, financial modeling, and if you are looking for a free certification to do, CFA Institute offers something called Investment Foundation. You can Google it, register for it, it's free, and you can take that. That would build some of the skills that you need to make a good impression in your first interview. Next, you need to be a person that has high personal integrity. So we cannot talk too much about integrity. And this should come out clearly during your interview. There is no employer that wants to hire a potential fraudster. No employer. In fact, it is known that thieves don't want to hire someone that will steal from them. So you must be someone that has strong ethical values. And ethics is not about law. Ethics is about what you do when no one is looking. That's really where ethics comes in. You need to remember that financial markets are built on trust. And because they are built on trust, anyone that is going to do anything to damage that trust, people don't want to hire you. If you go back to history, there are so many stories of rogue traders that have lost billions of dollars for their banks. There are so many CEOs and CFOs that are in jail because they falsified financial statements and investors lost billions of dollars. Or people who manipulated markets, traded with insider information and all that, and people lost money. So you guys need to make up your mind at this point, which kind of path do you want to follow? You need to get rid of I want to be rich at all cost mentality. If you continue doing the right things, I tell you for free, money will come. So money will come if you continue to do the right things. So don't be in a hurry. Lastly, I believe that for you to make a good impression, you must be someone that sets very high standards for yourself. And this is something that's worked for me in my life, right? No employer wants to hire someone that doesn't have ambition. Every employer has goals, ambitions, aspirations for their organization, and they are looking for people to move the organization towards those goals. Your body language in an interview can say it all. If you get to an interview and your body language is like this, people just know, they read meanings into that. So you need to be passionate, you need to show enthusiasm, you need to show ambition. You should do a bit of research into the long-term goals and aspiration of the company that you're interviewing with and pitch yourself as that valuable resource that they need to get to those goals that they've set for themselves. I believe that you should always set high standards for yourself in life. This is my own philosophy. My philosophy, even when I deal with my children, is I tell them that there's a reason why there's something called 100%. It's because it's achievable. Aim for 100. If you don't get 100, you will score 90, 95, and you end up having an excellent result. To me, that's what drives me as a person. And I'm challenging you guys that when you set the bar very high and work towards it, you will always turn out to be an excellent person, and that will help you. So guys, to wrap up, I'll just quickly talk about a few things to succeed if eventually you get into finance, the world of finance. Fintech, we've spoken about, so I will not talk about fintech anymore. The fact that you need to adapt, have multiple skills, develop the soft and human skills that computers can have, and all that. I've talked about that, so I won't talk about that. But once you start your career in finance, as you move along, you need to develop leadership skills. That's the first thing I'll say. Remember I said as you move higher on the career ladder, technical skills don't matter. You need leadership skills because you'll be managing people. You need to be someone that embraces diversity and inclusion. You need to be someone that can assemble and build high-performing teams. You need to realize at that point that, look, it's all about teams and not individual performers. You have all these individuals, put them together, and you should inspire them through leadership. Once you do that, then you find out that your team is delivering outstanding results for your firm, and that begins to make you indispensable to your employer. Secondly, when you are on that job, don't stop learning. Continuous professional development is key for you to remain relevant. The industry is changing every day. Technology is disrupting. The people that will remain relevant in the future are people that can change with the industry and adapt. You are competing with talents from all over the world, not just people in your locality. With COVID now, employers will be hiring people from all over the world because people can work remotely. Your first degree, I'm sorry to say, doesn't count for much. You need to look for professional certifications, second degrees, all exposures that will make you a subject matter expert. So in this regard, I would say, think about a master's degree in finance, think about going for an MBA, think about a CFA or similar designation. If you want to go into accounting, think about a chartered accounting certification. All these things will put you into a network, usually a huge network, that is beneficial for your careers. Thirdly, to thrive in the industry, you need to build your professional network. And by this, I mean within your industry and outside your industry. The mistake most people make is to limit their network to people within their industry. I mentioned before diversity and inclusion. There's big value in diversity. More industries are more interconnected than you think. So if you're a finance professional, you need to have connections in aviation. You should have connections in education, healthcare, agribusiness, telecoms, oil and gas. Your friends and network should cut across because every single industry in the world needs the finance industry to thrive. And so the only way you can generate business for your firm is when you have network across industries. And that's what differentiates you. People who bring in business always rise up in the career ladder and they are more valued than people that don't bring in business. Fourthly, to remain relevant, I would say think about building a big reputation as an industry leader and a subject matter expert. So this is an area that a lot of people neglect. And the reason is simple, it involves a lot of personal sacrifice, right? To become an industry leader, a subject matter expert, you typically need to volunteer outside of your normal work to do other things extracurricular. Usually this is not paid for. You probably want to aspire to lead an industry trade group. Nobody pays you for that. You're actually spending your time and your own money for that. But it's worthwhile to do it. And I can tell you guys for free from my own experience volunteering, it's been highly rewarding. In my time as president of CFA Society Nigeria, I've had the opportunity to meet all the industry leaders in finance, virtually all of them, regulators, governor of the central bank, all the way to Aso Rock, and building reputation with ministers, ministers of finance, etc. So for me, what that has done is to enhance my professional reputation and as well as the reputation of my employer. And even though I don't get paid for everything, one day in future, this kind of sacrifice would stand out and it will have its own reward. So lastly, I just want to end by saying to thrive in the world of finance, and potentially I would say this applies to virtually any field as well, you should get a mentor and a sponsor. Now there's a difference between mentor and sponsor, right? If you like, deliver the best work, high quality work, that's great. Your bosses and co would love you for that. You can be a fantastic talent, that's awesome. Provide solutions, great. But if no one is advocating or speaking for you when you are not in the room, unfortunately, you will not make a lot of progress. Somebody needs to be speaking for you when you are not there. The quality of your work alone will attract people to you. But you need people to speak for you when you are not there. That is what makes the difference between people who excel and people who just coast through an organization in their career. So build relationship with people, not just in your team, but people outside of your team. So when we get to promotion panels and we're discussing people, and we're discussing someone in a particular function, and someone in a totally different function is speaking highly of the person, chances are that person gets that promotion because that person has built a relationship outside of their core functions. With respect to mentors, I would say if you have that relationship with a mentor is supposed to guide you, but you need to take charge of that relationship. A lot of times I get many people who approach me for mentorship. And as soon as I tell them, I don't have a problem with it, but you take charge, I never hear from them again. So you need to realize that your mentors are busy. And a mentor's job is not to spoon feed you. So you need to take charge of that relationship, get the best advice from a mentor as someone that has traveled the path that you're about to travel. That way, you will learn what has worked for them and avoid the mistakes that they've made. So that way, you can shorten your own journey and have a better outcome. So, in conclusion, I know I've said a lot. I still have a lot more to say, but it's impossible for me to say everything today, right? So, I just hope that we can continue our dialogue potentially through social media. For some of you that know, I'm active on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. Feel free to reach me with questions even after today. I'll be very happy to guide you to the best of my ability. I will close by reminding you guys that look, you only have 24 hours in a day, nothing more than that. Same with me, same with you. The time you spend doing irrelevant things, you can never regain it. It's lost forever. Sadly, some of you, I'm also guilty sometimes, spend so much of time on social media on things that do not add value to your future. So if you fall in this category, and I'm talking to myself as well, we need to have a mindset change. Social media is great, but we should spend more time on content that will help to build a solid foundation for our future. If you want a career in finance, there are so many resources on social media and on the internet. Channel your energy to dig out all this information. Information about financial markets, information about companies, information about all these things. Remember what I said earlier on. To land that job, you need to speak the language and the jargons of the profession. The more you consume finance-related content, the more you can speak the language of finance, the more the likelihood that you will land that finance job, and the more the likelihood that you'll be successful at it. So I will stop here. I thank you guys sincerely for listening to me, and I'm looking forward to answering your questions. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. It's a great privilege to have you speak with us. And in fact, I jot a lot of things, a lot of things. But I believe that some of us have questions. I'm seeing some questions in the chat box. Okay, the first one says, between MBA and MSc, which is suitable for finance professionals? Sorry, sir. It seems you've been.
Sorry, I was on mute. My apologies. So I'm back on. My view on that is simple. MBA, if you want to be a specialist, MSc will help you. If you do an MSc in finance, they will teach you finance with a lot of rigor, with a lot of depth, right? If you do an MBA, in addition to being taught finance, so the depth will not be as much as what you get in an MSc class, but in addition, MBA is supposed to prepare future teach you finance, but you may not have the same level of depth that you have as someone who did an MSc in finance. So it depends on what you are looking for. If you want more specialization, and if you want a generalist approach plus leadership skills, then definitely an MBA will serve you better.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, sir. Someone asked, he said, um, our university is not doing much for preparing us for the world of finance between credentials and potentials, which are more important, or better still, which is necessary condition and which is sufficient condition. I don't know if you get the question.
Economists, whoever is asking that question, necessary and sufficient conditions. I'm not sure I got the full question, but let me see whether I can pick it up. Whether I can pick it up in the chat group. Can you take it again to make sure?
Okay. The question says, our university is not doing much for preparing us for the world of finance. Between credentials and potentials, which is more important, or better
Okay.
still, which is a necessary condition and which is a sufficient condition?
Okay, I'll try and answer that question the way I understand it. Again, I repeat and I stand by that statement that the universities are not preparing you guys adequately for the world of finance. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth. So the only way to bridge that gap is obviously to spend time developing yourself with professional degrees afterward, or a second degree afterwards. Professional degrees make more sense in the sense that it's more tailored to an industry and you're being prepared for that industry. So if you do BSc accounting and you don't do a chartered accounting exam, there's always a gap. There's always a difference between a chartered accountant and a non-chartered accountant. So same way, I mean, if you're coming into the investment management industry with a BSc, if you don't do a CFA, for example, you probably don't have adequate knowledge to succeed in that industry. So credentials matter, particularly when you remember that technical skills is what will land you the first job, right? So you need to be able to prove that you have those technical skills. And those technical skills, your universities haven't built it enough. So spend more time trying to at least improve on that and it helps you.
Okay, someone is asking, said, your background in economics as an undergraduate, was it a prerequisite for your passion for finance in the long run, or you chose to do something different?
At all, I mean, I loved economics from secondary school, so I decided to do economics. My second choice at that time was banking and finance, because if you remember, I said even as a kid, I always wanted to be a banker, so I knew what I wanted to do. Economics opens up your mind to how economies work. Whether it's microeconomics or macroeconomics, you begin to appreciate how financial markets work. And I wanted that general overview. And that's why even if you're doing an MBA today, you always do a course on economics. If you're doing an MSc today in finance, you will still do a course on economics, micro and macro. If you're doing CFA, economics is there, level 1, level 2, even level 3. So economics cuts across every operation in the financial market. And I just thought that that was a good course to give me a good foundation for a career in finance. So it's a great course. You don't have to study economics though. I mean, any other course you can still have a career in finance, but somewhere along the line, you will be expected to understand a bit of economics.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. There's a question here. I guess the person mistakenly sent it to me privately. She said, how do you advise to stay consistent in learning and growing, as it could be discouraging sometimes? What were some of the things you did, like some of the discouraging moments? What are those things you did to come up?
So it's not easy. Whoever wrote that question, I agree. But nothing in life is easy. Nothing is. When I talk to my children, I tell my children that I miss being young, because they want to be adults. Me, I want to go the other way around. Because when I look at them and they actually have time to play PS4, I'm like, God damn, you mean human beings actually have time to play PS? Not anymore for me. It's just not gonna happen because there's something. It's a
Somewhere.
pain. I always tell them that adulthood is a scam. It's a pain because there's so many things to do. But the reality is, despite that pain, as they say, no pain, no gain, right?
Yeah.
If you don't put yourself through the pain, you don't gain anything out of life. So,
Definitely.
guys, the way to look at it is your reading, your study, your professional development is an investment. Think of it as an investment. And that investment, like any investment, should have a return, right? And when the return comes, trust me, you will not remember that you went through. So that's the way, for me, I keep my eye on the end, on the reward. Once you are focused on the reward, then the process becomes a lot easier. So that's what has worked for me. Even when I'm discouraged, I think about the reward and the process becomes easier along the way.
Okay, thank you very much for that question, sir. Another person said, is it to say that getting into the world of finance might be almost impossible with just a first degree?
That's not correct. You can get into the world of finance with a first degree. In fact, you can be in the world of finance with no degree. Let's be honest. Remember what I said, guys. Finance is not rocket science. It's not rocket science. So we're not sending men to the moon, right? So maybe if you want to work in a profession where they send men to the moon, then yes, you need to study harder. No, finance, at the end of the day, really, guys, is to take money from someone and give money to someone. It can be difficult. You know that woman that does Yoruba people call it a job, where you collect money from people and at the end of the month, it's finance, whether you like it or not. That's finance in a crude way. So you don't need, your first degree is sufficient. If you have the right attitude and aptitude, you will succeed even with a first degree. And trust me, even with no degree. So don't pressure yourself to think that succeeding in finance means I have to accumulate a lot of degrees. That's not correct.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Another question said, is it possible for someone without a business inclined BSc to run a professional business course like MBA?
Very, very correct. Very possible. I would have shown you one example of that. That one example lives in my house. He sleeps on the same bed with me. And so my wife is a geoscientist. She studied physics first degree. She works with Shell as a geoscientist. So all she does is to tell you drill here, there's oil here, there's oil here. That's her job. And as I speak to you now, she's actually doing an MBA at Chicago Boots Business
Wow.
School. So, of course, I have to spend time teaching her accounting sometimes and teaching her some of the finance things. And now the negotiating part of the marriage is with me because she needs me now to teach her some of the things. But a lot of times I say, man, after this woman's MBA, I'll become irrelevant in this house. So all the things I've been using to post for her is gone. She will like say, this is all that you people do. So seriously, guys, she's a science person, and she's doing an MBA, so you don't need to have a business degree.
Okay, I think this question is somewhat straightforward. So getting an MSc in economics, is it is it recommended for someone who wants to build a career in finance?
To be honest, I would say no, which is surprising. I read economics, right? So I should be supporting it and saying yes. What you need for a career in finance is basic economics. Economics is very theoretical. There are so many things I learned in economics I've never applied them. So all that DY, DX, the this, the that nonsense word, in real life, I'm not DYing DX in anything. That's the reality. So I don't need an advanced degree where I'm talking technical. I'm talking about all sorts of, jargons, economic jargons. I don't. Basic economics is good enough for a finance career. If you want to do advanced economics, that's your choice. But it won't give you any material advantage.
Thank you very much, sir. We'll take two more questions so that we can round up very fast from here. Someone is saying, said, thank you for the session. Said, technical skills. Can you highlight some examples of technical skills that is needed in finance, I guess?
So I gave some examples, modeling. So a lot of times when you guys start applying for jobs, you prepare your CV, cover letter, you apply, they invite you for a test. Some of those things are being tested in that test. Sometimes people go to assessment centers or they take you to a training school, etc., and all that. If you go for some assessments, they tell you build a financial model. So you need to understand how to build a financial model. You need to understand financial statements anyway to build a financial model. Or they give you a case study and say, value this company, do the valuation. So those are all technical skills. And you pick those technical skills really by essentially studying a bit more. I mentioned the investment foundation, which you should by all means try to do. And if you are, once you do some of these things, you can pick up those technical skills really quickly.
Thank you very much, sir. And for the investment foundation course you talked about, I've dropped the link on the group, you know, just now. So please let's take it. Let's assess it. Okay. This question says in advancing. Okay, there's the first question here. Sorry. The same university that did not prepare us for the.
No, I can see a question from Sunday Adishola
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I want to read
about
it.
the same universities that didn't prepare us, and we're going back there for second degree. And is that half a dozen and six and all that? I agree with you, to be honest, guys. I mean, if you want to do a second degree, make sure you're at least doing it in a school where the curriculum is solid enough to at least build on the gaps that you have um, from your by all means try to go abroad if you can go abroad and get a scholarship. Schooling abroad and schooling in Nigeria, I have to be honest, I've experienced both worlds. It's night and day. So if you can get a scholarship to go abroad or you can afford to pay for it, even better. So that's the way I would answer your question.
Okay. There's a last question from Sarah. Said, in advancing more in the world of finance, where will you advise us to start? I mean, if you are learning online.
So the starting point is Google, right? There's nothing you want to learn in life now that is not on Google. So for me, anything I want to do, I just Google it. In fact, Google has become a verb now, right? Just Google it. So just Google anything you want. Interestingly, I tell you, even when I'm teaching my CFA students and I'm preparing for a class and I see something that, either I've forgotten or don't even know myself, I can't be teaching you what I don't know. The next thing I do is call up Google to Google it. And I'll get tons of resources. I study it, read it, and then I understand. And, okay, this is what this is. And I'm better able to teach and apply it to my life. So for me, Google is my best friend. Is the easiest way for me to get any kind of information that I'm looking for without even worrying about sources. Now, there's Google Scholar. I'm sure you guys know there's Google Scholar. So if you want to check, look for research reports that are free. Research that people have done. Google Scholar is there, and so many things. So please make use of the internet. I do Twitter a lot. I read a lot of information on Twitter. I follow all the Bloomberg, all the Financial Times. I read articles that people write. All those things, they all help. So, Michelle, I want to talk about. Someone asked a question. I think it was Sunday's question. I just saw that it's the second part. They
Okay.
said twist of vulnerabilities in the finance. And the answer is yes. I mean, with most your job, right? So any profession in the investment industry because cycles happen, economies go into recession, and when you have a recession, people start downsizing, stock market is not doing well, and you're a stockbroker, you may lose your job. So there are so many things. And if you're a trader, for example, trading involves a lot of energy. Traders take risk in order to make money. I can tell you, I know traders that have committed suicide because they lost money, right? A trader lost tons of money. This is real life story. And then this happened in Citibank, when I was in Citibank. And this is Citibank in London. This guy lost money. He was either on the 10th floor or so. He was trading floor on the 10th floor. And he went to the balcony and he jumped out and killed himself. So all those things happen. So really, if you don't have that kind of energy, there are some parts of finance that you should not be going to, right? Just leave it for, it's not for the faint-hearted. So all those things happen.
Yes, oh, we would like to round up, but this last question came in, and then we'll take this last question. So we can round up now. The question says, "My name is Ayomide Jemi. Okay, a recent graduate of economics from UI. What are the set of works experience and set skills? Okay, and yeah, and skill sets do you think will be useful for someone who is interested in infrastructure finance in a private equity firm?"
Or development finance. So I work for a financial institution that does infrastructure finance. So I guess I can speak for that. When we are interviewing people, the first thing we are interested in is your analytical skills. So you need to be very analytical because we will give you like a case study. It could be a real life case study and ask you to analyze it, or we can give you a financial model and ask you to build, right? So back to all the points I made earlier on. And you need to remember that infrastructure is a long-term game, right? So with infrastructure, so many risk factors that are not in a typical corporate loan, corporate finance. You need to better understand how that field works. You know, here you're dealing with government, utilities, you have issues around environmental, social, governance, all those points. So you need to be able to discuss all these things. And like anything else, like I said, once you can speak some of the jargons of the trade, your interviewer is warmed up to you, you know, and they will be able, they will, even if you are saying nonsense, they will at least use rounding points for the speaking the right language. So analytical skills, modeling, you know, valuation, all those things I talked about, those are the things that they'll be looking out for in the early stages of your career.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. If someone wants to make an inquiry, she said she sent it to my private DM. I don't know, but let me just ask it. She said, is there any scholarship opportunity or for on CFA as an institute? Does CFA offer any scholarship opportunity?
The answer is yes. There's something called Access Scholarship. So we offer that annually. I don't remember the number, but we offer at least almost 250 people annually scholarship. So probability of getting it is high. You probably need to prove that you need it. So as long as you can prove that, there's a very high chance that you will get that scholarship. So it crashes down the cost of writing the exam for you significantly. If the person who asks that question is a woman, the CFA Society also offers scholarships for women. So that's also another one that you can apply for. And I think it's even the CFA Institute offers scholarships for women. So for some reason now, I always say that the world has changed. It's men that are being discriminated against now. So women have access to Access Scholarship, CFA Society Nigeria Scholarship, CFA Institute Scholarship. So if you're a woman that asks that question, please, the opportunities are enormous.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate your time. In fact, you really invested a lot of time talking to us, and I'm sure each and every one of us have learned a great deal today. So, on behalf of the Investment Society, I would like to appreciate you, sir, for this session. I would like to invite my colleague, um, Theophilus Victor, to give us a closing address.
Right, definitely. Thank you very much, Sir Banji.
Unfortunately, Theophilus
Yeah.
cracked.
Hello.
Okay. So okay.
Can try again. It's your microphone that is cracking. Don't worry.
Hear me at all?
Okay, you can speak up now. We can hear you now.
All right. Thank you very much, Sir Banji, for this is a very, very awesome session for us. And
Okay.
for this,
Sorry, I guess
something that
Theophilus. Sorry, we can't hear you. There's a lot of crack. Your voice is cracking. The stuff is cracking. All right, thank you very much. On behalf of the investment consortium and every executive, we want to appreciate each and everyone here today. We also want to appreciate um, our guests. We thank you for the time you spent with us, and in fact, really shared um, great stuff with us. And I believe that from here we'll pick it up. In fact, some of us would now get to take the foundation program more seriously and get the certificate so that we can have an edge. So we have persons from Ghana, another part of Africa here. So I would like to know, does this apply to other people in Ghana, the scholarship opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, Ghana recently started a CFA society in Ghana. They used to be under us. So if you're from Ghana, I mean, try and connect with CFA Society Ghana. Everything I said they would also be offering it to Ghanaians. So try and find access to the CFA Society in Ghana.
Okay.
I think I also want to just say I think Akinrotimi is on the line as well. Ayo is also from the CFA Society. So Ayo and Gloria are two representatives from the CFA Society.
Welcome.
Ayo and Gloria, if you can, in the chat group, just drop your email addresses or maybe the general email address that people can reach out to the society. I don't know if you can do that. So if you're happy to share your own personal emails, please do that or drop the general one as well. Okay, so I think Gloria has sent something.
Okay, she has sent something. Okay. Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Okay, so guys, thanks for having me. And I want to wish all of you the best. Hopefully, when we look back in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever it is, a lot of you here will be leaders in the industry and you will be changing the world, as they say. So I wish you all the best in your studies. Take them seriously. You have nothing to lose graduating with a good degree. You have nothing to lose whatsoever. And then once you enter the industry, if we are still there in the industry, we'll be very happy to pull you up. And if we have exited the industry, you guys should remember to look after your retired colleagues at the time. So all the best, and it's a pleasure being here this evening.
Thank
And
you very
enjoy
much,
the.
sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate.
All right, guys.
So
take
the
care.
session will be brought to a close. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, guys. Bye-bye now.
Bye, sir.